C-Doc again.
Hey, it's not Tuesday night, but that's okay. We're doing this anyway. It's Monday night. Hope everybody is doing well. Fresh start to the week. We're gonna do it. We come a day early, get you caught up. Last Emperor in the house tonight. Looking forward to hearing the stories. So, thanks for joining us on the odd night. But I'm not doing this alone. I'm going to bring on my cohorts. First up, she got her start in classic rap radio. Our lady from the heyday of K-Day, Jennifer Jenny.
What's happening?
What's going on?
Apparently, all kinds of things.
Oh, well. That's all right. Whatever. It's all
Here
good.
we are, folks.
It's all good. Hip-hop Monday night talking music.
After everything that went on the weekend. Yep,
exactly. Hype style in place. Flatline. Shout out to Flatline, who is a little under the weather. We wish him a speedy recovery. So, But you know who else is here?
You know who?
The Culture Clip King. The man whose Instagram doesn't need any introduction. If you ain't following it, you're a sucker. That's right. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, Ultramag 7.
You're a sucker. What's up, Jennifer? What's up, Mr. C-Doc?
What's happening, bro?
I'm good. And as always, I got some hip-hop mail.
Yes.
So
you are actually our official Yo Mailman.
I was going to say, what the heck?
Yeah.
I got to Yeah, I'm turning into the mailman. I got to stand up because hopefully you don't see my big stomach. Oh, but if you see this shirt, it says, "We ear hustling, baby."
Yeah.
And so that's my homegirl, Newbie the Ear Hustler. And she's super dope. Bought this off of her. She's got some new merch out. And, you can check her out at We Ear Hustling Baby on Instagram. But she's also on Weekly Rap God. So you can check her out. She does different hosting. So you know what I'm talking about. Newbie, she's dope. On her page, she does a lot of like R&B and soul music. But she knows her hip-hop. Trust me. Like we've had discussions. So shout out to Newbie. Go check her out at We Ear Hustling Baby and cop some merch.
There you go.
That you can't see.
I got mail.
Oh, she coming in hot.
Yeah.
She coming in hot.
I got.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
I got mail.
That new Go Stetson.
Yep. That new Stetson.
But wait.
But wait, it gets worse.
Oh, future shock.
The text back.
But
wait, it gets worse.
Oh, the other text smash. Hit him with the dual covers.
Can I just say, what a wondrous looking thing that is.
That's dope.
Thank you. And not to be left out, but I also received hip hop mail.
Oh, I love this.
I was late because I was the third. Ultramag and Flatline had it first, but Mike the Hat gave me the hookup.
Yes.
So, shout out, of course, to Mike the Hat. However, I got to one up you guys because he autographed mine. So.
Okay.
He said I can brag about it.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah. Really dope.
As it should be.
Yeah. Dope stuff. But shout out to Mike the Hat.
Yeah, shout out to Mike the Hat. Good brother.
Yeah. Salute. Well, hopefully we're going to do some things with coming up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's not waste any time because the Emperor is in the building. Let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has had quite the storied career. and can't wait to hear about all the twists and turns. Please welcome to the show, Last Emperor.
Peace.
What up?
Salute.
Yes,
How are you,
sir.
sir?
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good.
Doing well, bro. How are you?
All good.
Dope. I'm glad to be here. Very glad to be here. I'm doing great.
Fantastic. I'd like to start off asking our guests what they've got going on currently. What is up in the world of the Last Emperor at this moment?
Yeah, I just myself and DJ Mad Soul Desar just released about 2 months ago my most current project entitled Program. Roughly about 12 songs, boom bap hip hop. The format of the album is done in somewhat of a well. First of all, when you think we chose the title Program because anytime you go to see a theatrical release, whether it be a play or a musical, before you view the show, you get a program, which
Right.
gives you an indication of the cast of characters and somewhat a brief synopsis of what their role is in the overall story arc. So, Program is a project that we just put out that has about 4 or 5 different characters, each getting like a couple of songs apiece. And just something I wanted to always do, sort of like a one-man play on wax, for lack of a better term, and a boom bap one-man play, for so to speak.
Oh man, that sounds dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. I have a decent car ride tomorrow. That'll be part of my soundtrack.
I hope you enjoy.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. Yeah. You said it just came out?
Yeah, it came out about 2 months ago. It's on Bandcamp so far. Yeah, it's something that I keep close to me because it's a project that I always wanted to do, going throughout the twists and turns, that we've somewhat spoken about, and just an ability to showcase the range of a hip hop artist, not just myself. I like what a lot of other people do. So again, you see a list of characters on this project, everything from a Sith Lord to a Musketeer to a galactic bounty hunter. So yeah, Program.
How did you approach writing the different characters?
Well, from time to time, I guess being an MC, I'm constantly jotting down concepts.
Yeah.
A lot of times I obviously pull from certain source material. In the case of let's say the title, the first track, which is called Revenge. It's the first track that you hear. And that we see someone going from the light side to the dark side. And it's sort of like a metaphor for my career in that I've been through so many painful things as an artist that it sometimes creates the Sith Lord in me.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like that sort of same thing that happened with Anakin. For those of us who are aware of the Star Wars saga, and why he fell from the light.
Yeah.
So yeah, I pull from many different. I'm a nerd at the end of the day. We spoke on that somewhat. I love everything from just anything positively fun that's a part of pop culture. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm a huge comic book fan. Science fiction is like science fact for me. So and just reading. In the case of the Musketeer, I grew up reading the works of Alexander Dumas, whether it's the Man in the Iron Mask, the Three Musketeers, the Count of Monte Cristo. So I pull from a number of places.
Dope. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, interesting concept for a record. So,
yeah.
For
I hope you let me know what you after you've digested it. Let me know what you think for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. So okay, I like to find out. You grew up in Philly, right?
100% West Philly.
West Philly. So
Born and raised, but I'm not going to sing the song.
okay. I think we all know it. It's all good.
I was waiting for that.
Right? What was your? I always call it the gateway drug. What got you into hip hop? What was the moment, the thing, the record, the song, the experience?
I think I have an older uncle who's about 13 years older than me, and because we weren't that far in age, I was able to kind of hang out with him sometime.
Yeah.
So, of course, I remember, I'm of an age where I remember when there wasn't any hip hop per se, like obviously on the radio and stuff.
Right.
So you'd have to go to a block party to really be exposed. So this uncle took me to a block party once. Actually, there's two events. A block party once where I heard this incredible music, saw a DJ. That was like definite exposure. And he also took me to a skating rink called the Great Skate that was in Upper Darby, which is close to where I live. And our local radio DJ, Lady B, was she was DJing at this skating event.
Oh, wow.
So those two events, as far as the music is concerned, as far as graffiti, because we know obviously hip hop is more than just the music portion. Graffiti is real big in my neighborhood, was always real big in my neighborhood. For those who may not be aware, Cornbread is viewed as the pioneer graffiti artist. He's from right here in Philly. As far as graffiti that we know in terms of a hip hop format. So that was the visual part was always there. So those probably two or three things probably sparked my interest. And again, we're talking like 1982, 81, 81-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, Doc. I gotta.
Okay,
we were talking
ahead.
about this. We were talking about this before.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just saw Dartmouth put something out. He said, "Lady B is too fine." But so last time we didn't discuss this back there, but I'm from South Jersey. But
okay,
I went to school at Drexel, so I've lived in Philly.
So you know
exactly. But whenever I get anybody from Philly on, I always want them to talk about what Lady B means to hip hop in general and Philly hip hop. So,
right.
If you could just shed some words on that.
Yeah. Lady B is obviously, of course, when we think of, DJs in New York, radio personalities in New York City, we're talking about Mr. Magic. We're talking about Red Alert. Well, Lady B for Philly is our Mr. Magic and our Red Alert. Especially as far as I would even say maybe even our Frankie Crocker, because she comes from the era of, I think I'm not exactly sure when she first landed on radio, but I do know that on record or on paper, she has the first single for a female hip hop artist ever.
Tell it.
Tell it. And so yeah, man. So she was an artist before she became a radio personality. So of course she led us tremendously through the whole golden era, the boom bap era, all of that. When you go back and look at the album credits of, let's say, the Jungle Brothers, or I'm sure BDP early on, I'm sure EPMD, the list goes on. Right after they're done thanking the Red Alerts and the Mr. Magics and all of that, you'll see Lady B's name in those credits.
Yep.
So yeah, man, she's everything for, that's who I was tuned into on a Friday, Saturday night to give us that good conduit for breaking hip hop. So she's everything, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
shout out to the legendary Lady B.
Shout out to Lady B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get her on the show, Ultra.
That would be dope.
I'll be crying on here if she comes on the show. Trust me, believe that. I still have I always say it, but I still have that tape of her on WHAT AM. I still got a cassette
Wow.
of.
So that's going back. That's going back. And I know
Absolutely.
for a brief period of time, she actually did end up doing radio in New York City on WBL Kicking S. Because
Yeah.
at one point I was going back and forth uh up there, and to my surprise, she was on the radio. I was
Hmm.
driving to Manhattan, and she was on the radio. And this had to be like 92, 93, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Lady B is everything. Everything.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So when you got into hip hop, how long did it take for you to say, you know what, I want to do this, but I want to be an MC? Did you dabble with the other things first?
Immediately,
Okay.
because around the time that hip hop started to emerge as like this, was like being given the national exposure or national
Yeah.
venues. That's the same time that I'm going through adolescence, puberty, whatever you want to call it. So it was almost like a rite of passage that I be engaged in these things. Like a typical summer day in like 1983, 1984, I might be riding my BMX bike. I might go fishing. I might be doing graffiti. I might be breakdancing. I might be, sitting around kicking rhymes for my friends, in our leisure, so it's very interesting for me to look back, because again, this is the same time that there are certain hormonal things that are going on within a young man at that time.
Sure.
So hip hop for me was like a constructive way to express myself artistically,
Mhm.
and sort of like a valve to like depressurize some of the angst that a person at that age, a young man growing up in the hood, going through the same trials and tribulations, and confronted with the same obstacles that many other people around me grew up in a quote unquote impoverished, lower income community. I got in trouble sometimes. I got in a little trouble. I'm not, ashamed to say that, but I would have been in more trouble if it weren't
Yeah.
for hip hop.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Did, is there music? Was there music in your family? Anybody play, or was it just just recreational? They listen to it, or music fans, or pops have a record collection, or
Yeah, for sure. Well, my mom was more into like definitely a music all around family. Definitely
yeah.
music all around, and very versatile. My mother was into like Brazilian jazz, so I'd be
Oh wow,
listening to like Stan Getz and Astrud Gilberto, and Brazil '66, Sergio Mendes, all of that sort of stuff.
yeah,
My dad was everything from Sam Cooke to to Hall and Oates and everything in between. So definitely very versatile experience. My mother wrote poetry when she was young. So yeah, everything from R&B to Brazilian jazz. I mean, nothing. Music was music in our household. You know what I mean? And wherever it came from, if it touched us in a certain way, we definitely got a variety of that. And they both had really, really dope collections.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's great, man. Brazilian jazz. Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
lovely. So, okay. So, what were the first rhymes that you wrote? When did you start writing rhymes?
About 1983.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, about 1983, 84. Definitely by the time Run DMC is out, and by the time
Yeah.
the Fat Boys are out, I'm trying to imitate what they're doing. And then, back then it was more about routines.
Yeah.
Like my uncle knew, he was always like a Cool Mo D Treacherous 3 type of fan. And back then it was all about routines, the cold crush and all of that. So he was a little bit older, so that was like more his speed. For me, even though Run DMC obviously was a bigger draw, and they're definitely the kings. My earliest rhyme patterns were based on Fat Boy's rhymes because although they, we know like the sort of the gimmicky way that they got pushed, obviously because of, the way they looked and it was marketable, but they had some of the illest routines as far as like this. To me, the Stick'em routine is one of the illest routines in hip hop, period.
Oh yeah.
The way that it's something about the tonality of voices between Marky D and Cool Rock Ski when they say, "So come on, beat blocks, play one for me," like, and it's in unison. So back then it was all about it was a group effort. It was Melly Mel and Raheem and all of them say, making 5 MCs sound like one. Or in the case of the Fat Boys, the two of them coming together in unison and their voice sounding like one. So my earliest rhymes were like me. I had a homie named Stevie B in Sarah Junior High School, and like another homie named Carlton. We kind of put together somewhat of a little group. But it was all about the routines. It was like not just me, but how can we, I'd write my rhymes. First of all, we'd all write our rhymes together and then try to do our best like Disco 3 impression or Furious 5 impression where we all sound like one MC, so that's kind of what it was back then. So I've been writing rhymes definitely since 1983. I had a graffiti book and a rhyme book, and it was fun. It was just something we did for fun. We didn't really look at it the way it is now in terms of a cultural context. It was just something fun to do. If I didn't feel like riding my bike, I might write some rhymes.
What was the first big Philly artist or release that kind of like really impacted you? Because you guys had some legends that coming out of Philly.
Yeah, for sure. I would probably say it's a tie between Schoolie D and Steady B.
Yeah.
Because I grew up pretty much like 15-minute walk from where both of them, grew up. Yeah. I went to the same high school as Steady B, Overbrook High School, which is where like Will Smith, Wilt Chamberlain, guy in as Bluford, who was like one of the pioneering African Americans at NASA. So Overbrook High School was like the hip hop high school in the boom bap era, the early boom bap era, the golden age. So I was able to see people like Schoolie D at like smaller venues, 52nd Street Y, or I wasn't old enough to get in, but we would stand outside the Wynn Ballroom in Winfield, which is like up the street from where Fresh Prince lives. So yeah, Schoolie D, PSK, and Gucci Time and all that were like, before they hit nationally, it was like the soundtrack to what was going on in the neighborhood. And we would all laugh because it was like stuff we could relate to, on a Saturday night. And Steady B, as far as like bring the beat back, because he was only like maybe 2 or 3 years older than me. And when I was like 100%, you are, come on, Jenny, you already know, Jenny, she's stunting tonight.
Yeah,
she does tonight. 100%. Jenny is official. You official with that. Yeah. So me and Steady B went to high school at the same time. Like when I was like a sophomore, he was a senior. So it was fast, and his locker was like right down the hallway from my locker. Wow. So it was ill to me to see somebody that had like, records on the radio, but was still coming to high school. Right. So it made it possible for me. I said, yo, if he's doing that, then maybe there's a chance for me someday. So yeah, Schoolie D, Steady B, definitely those guys. And it's all a West Philly thing. It's all, like I said, 15 minutes. I can be in either one of those guys' neighborhoods. So yeah.
Oh man, listen, the people that you said, but like Jewel T, MC Breeze,
Jewel T,
100%.
Oh, right, the crossfade, that type of stuff. Even like I remember You remember when the song Mr. Tuxedo Name Brand Sneakers? Remember that came out? And then
100%.
Mr. Tuxedo used to be on Dancing on Air and
Air.
don't get me
That's right.
started.
That's right. Dancing on Air. Dancing on Air. It's another West Philly legendary institution.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, while I'm on the West Philly tip, we have to keep in mind that during the boom bap era, the majority of the hip hop artists that really made international waves all came from out of West Philly. Whether we're talking about obviously Schoolie D, if we're talking about Bahamadia, if we're talking about the singing MC Breeze, if we're talking about the youngsters, if we're talking about of course that whole pop arts record movement, but the majority of the MCs who came out, and then we're not even going to talk about the DJs yet. We haven't even spoken about Jazzy Jeff. We haven't spoken about DJ Miz. We haven't spoken about Cash Money, but
and Wizard Rasheem.
Hey, speak on it, God.
Old money.
Yeah, man. So West Philly, we've West Philly in particular. I mean, obviously, when people say Philly, a lot of times because it's not as big as, let's say, LA or New York, they just talk about us in a broad stroke. But when you get into the inner workings of how the city actually works and how it's set up, pound for pound, West Philly has contributed the most in terms of hip hop.
Yeah. Yep.
I always say, I'd say this to people that get mad at me. I tell them, I said, the best DJs come from Philly.
Oh, 100%.
I'm not
100%.
taking no for an answer. The best DJ, Lightning, rest in peace, Lightning Rich. Like it's just
Lightning Rich. That's right.
It's too
That's
many.
right.
It's too many.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway,
something in the water, man.
Something in the water.
Absolutely, because I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody else says. Jazzy Jeff, is the most ridiculous DJ ever.
100%.
Cash Money.
And it's
Cash Money
with him.
Cash Money.
Well, here in Philly, that's always been like the big debate. It's like either Cash Money or Jeff. Like some people may go one way or the other, but it's locally that's always been like the big debate. But Jazzy Jeff is he's a great human being on top of that. He's a great human being. A lot of times, I've been around a lot of people, a lot of big names, and he's one of the most humble guys ever. And he's even influenced me in a way that as a kid growing up in West Philly, I'm standing on 60th Street. I had to be about this is the summer of '88, so I'm 16. Now, again, I went to the same high school as Will Smith, so it was customary for us to always see him driving through in something nice IROC Z with the nice system and all that. Jazzy Jeff had like a Chevy Blazer when they first came out, nice system in it and all that, zipping up and down, through the neighborhood. So one day in 1988, we're standing. This is the summer of '88, and we all know all the tremendous music that came out, '88. So Jeff pulls up to the corner, and we know it's him because we know what type of ride he has.
Yeah.
The window comes down, and in the passenger seat is Flavor Flav, and and we like, yo, Flav, what up, what up, what up? He just looked at us and was like, yeah, boy. So for us growing up in West Philly, we felt extra special because it's like, we know there's not a whole bunch of places in the world where Jazzy Jeff is just riding through and that's nothing for you, but he pulls up with Flavor Flav in the passenger seat. You know what I mean? It just that was always an inspiration, and I always joke about that with Jeff whenever I see him. Yeah.
That's so wow.
Sounds like Flav showing up in weird places.
Yeah.
Later, Jeff would tell me that he would just be in our neighborhood walking around, bugging out, having fun, doing whatever. Like, Flav is just, if there's a few people that really just embody that free spiritedness in hip hop, is Flavor Flav.
Yep. So true. So true.
Wow.
So when did you? So you started going. You said earlier you started going up to New York.
Yeah.
And you were going back and forth.
Yeah. Well, in college, I went to Lincoln University, which is an HBCU here in Southern Pennsylvania, Southeastern Pennsylvania. The likes of Langston Hughes,
Right.
people like that went there. The Last Poets, went there. Gil Scott Heron went there for a time. So I made a lot of great connections, both musically, socially, politically, you name it. So a couple of friends of mine who lived in the Bronx at the time, near Yankee Stadium, Concourse Village, Grand Concourse Village. When people, I have great friends, and anyone who's kind of assisted me along the way of just hip hop exposure has always sought fit to bring me to where they live so I can get their version of what hip hop is. So in the early 90s, I was going up to the Bronx a lot in Harlem. You know what I mean? And just getting exposed to certain neighborhoods and what type of hip hop was going on there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're talking like 92, 93.
Wow.
And so were you making music connects through that too? Are you thinking in those terms of doing records at that point?
Yeah, I am. I'm first starting to, it started out, as a lot of people start out battling. Like even when I was like 12, 13, 14 in my neighborhood, my vocabulary was probably a little more advanced than someone my age. So a lot of the older guys who were like hustling would get money or put money up for me to go to different streets and battle, different neighborhoods and battle.
Wow.
So I was one of those kids early on. So, once the 90s hit, the grimy 90s, it was sort of like that same thing, although it wasn't really much money involved. People would just take me places like, yo, this is my man from Philly. He can rhyme. And, of course that had to be tested a few times. So I didn't even really know song structure then. I just knew how to write raps and how to kick them, how to, spit them, as they say. Yeah. So early on, it was just about a theme for me is like going to different communities that are, very important to the scope of hip hop and really becoming immersed in the language, the culture, the slang, all of the things that what I knew would help make me, well, early on I didn't know, but as time progressed, it helped make me a more relatable, rounded hip hop artist and a linguist because I became familiar with going to different regions. So I knew, certain slang and terminology that might be popular in the Bronx and Harlem, as opposed to a little bit later, I was going out to certain parts of Long Island, whether it be Hempstead, Freeport, Roosevelt, Uniondale. I had another friend who took me around to all these different townships and made me aware of what the slang, what the lingo was, what the MCs locally were about. So traveling and interacting with people and sharing language has helped me in terms of my hip hop endeavors for sure.
Yeah. And I gotta ask, when did you become Last Emperor? When did you take on the moniker?
I saw the film, the film by that title, which chronicled the life of Pu Yi, who was the last emperor of imperialist China. Great film. I encourage anyone to go and see it. And what I took away from that was, here we have the high culture of imperialist China, and this man is the last remnant of that. We see a changing geopolitical society around him, but within the confines of these walls, he is the last emperor, and he has, the ultimate say. So I likened that somewhat to what I wanted to project as far as like being like, whatever happens around me, I'd like to be one of the last bastions of authentic hip hop. And you know, the principles and tenets of what I've come to know and understand as authentic hip hop to be. So around the time that like people were bold enough to have titles, like, you know, I gotta definitely say that the Wu-Tang was definitely a very huge influence, you know, because they took the whole, you know, martial arts slash Asian culture and infused that. So it made a pathway for me to be free enough to even take on a moniker and not just be MC this or, you know, that. So definitely seeing them you know, and their approach opened up the floodgates for people like me to come with these grandiose titles.
You're right. Great movie. Yeah. Great movie, man.
For sure.
Okay, so was it 96 that you did your first record that you put out?
Yeah, I when I graduated in 1995 from LU, from Lincoln University, a good friend of mine, I consider him my brother, named Q Turner out of Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. We were like the two hip hop guys in the political science program, and you know we had a real kinship. Like I said, it's a real brotherhood. That's my brother to this day, and I ended up linking with him musically because he had aspirations to get into the entertainment field as a manager, and I just wanted to be a hip hop artist, and I had no real managerial skills to manage myself. But we knew we you know we didn't want to immediately go to law school like our parents probably wanted us to, but we just wanted to, you know, be immersed in hip hop music. So in '95. We put together a demo. I went to a good friend of mine, put me on to a guy who made music in South Jersey, Willingboro, New Jersey, named Big Tyke. He helped me make my demo. Shout out to Willingboro and all my South Jersey sluggers. We made a demo in 1995. The demo started circulating through the tri-state area, and a lot of my earliest material comes from that demo.
Okay. Yeah. So Secret Wars Part 1, 96.
Yeah, that was on the demo. That was on the demo as well. Yeah, and it finally got released. And I think a white label or something in '96. Yeah.
Yeah. So shall we talk about the? Shall we?
Yes, we should.
Book? Yes. Yeah. I mean, Secret Wars. Come on now. You know.
Hold up. I saw Les Amp perform at the Electric Factory.
Oh,
I think it was the Lyrics. It was the Lyricist Lounge.
Lyricist Lounge. Yeah, 100%.
And
100%.
I remember he did, and I wasn't up on you. I mean, I had the Lyricist Lounge, you know, the song that you did with Zach and KRS. But
yes.
You CIA? Did Secret Wars. Yeah, CIA. You did Secret Wars and Bums. And I was like, oh, this cat is he's killing me right now. This dude is incredible. But I was at that show at the Electric Factory, bro. But yeah, let's do Secret Wars. I'm a big comic book fan, and for somebody to do that song, it's like one of those things that you would think about in your head, but you brought all that to life. And I'm like, and then you did the voices, and I'm like, oh, this dude is bananas. But you know, I mean, it's probably obvious, but what was the inspiration for you putting that together? Those two, you know, the hip hoppers versus, you know, the comic book characters.
A couple of things. I think as children, we all start out you know when you're a kid and you got your action figures and you're in your room or what have you, and you know you're taking your action figures and you're making them fight each other, and you're doing role play as you're doing that, you know. Mm-hmm. So if you got Skeletor here and you got He-Man here and you're saying, I'm going to destroy He-Man, and you know he's you know, you're making him beat up He-Man and all of that. You know, that's where it starts for many of us as children. Yeah. You know, even you know that's where it starts. You know, just expressing our imagination. These are tools that help us enhance the imagination. So it kind of started out like that. And initially I had maybe like, I think about 6 or 7 fights. And what I would do is take each of the fights between the MCs and the comic book characters. And then between my stage show, I would do like a couple of the fights. It wasn't a full out song yet. I would just do a couple of the fights. And the producer that I was working with, and I mean, the crowd would love it. And the producer that I was working with at the time was like, "Yo, man, you got to really like lock in and just knock a song out. I think it would be really great." So I went back, and it took me a little bit of time because I didn't want to just what I like to pride myself in is that I didn't take any MC and pair them with any comic book character. I did my best to research and make the skill level of each comparable, and it would make for a better conflict. So of course, if we're talking about things mentally, we're talking about KRS-One. He's the teacher. Now, who's the teacher or instructor of the X-Men? Professor Charles Xavier. So it made sense that those two would go at it. At the time, people like, just across the board, whether it's Redman versus the Incredible Hulk, whether it's Common Sense versus Iceman. I just tried to make the skill level comparable. So, that's where it started out. And what really, really inspired me to want to really put that song out there more and more is, if we're thinking about the time that I wrote all of this, we're talking about maybe like 94-ish, going into 95. And this was like the low rumblings of this whole East Coast, West Coast thing that culminated between people like Pac and Big, right? So I'm always trying to formulate whatever ways that I can to, heal some of the stuff, because I think hip hop at its best has a tremendous healing quality. But if it's weaponized, it can also hurt. I want to also, emphasize that. It's very, very much like the Jedi. Anybody can pick up a lightsaber, but are you using it for protection and defense, or are you looking to use it for offense?
Yes.
And I think hip hop as a language art and a spoken word system has that same ability. So I was just trying to do my best to show and prove, to the wider hip hop audience, that it's not always about us beefing amongst each other. In fact, we can all come together for one common cause, i.e. Stan Lee and his comic book characters and Jack Kirby and all those dudes. We got a team for them. So we don't have to fight amongst each other. What if we were presented with a much larger battle that caused all of us to come together collectively? So that's where we get Secret Wars.
Yeah, that song. I mean, it's an amazing song. And like I said, me being a comic book fan and you bringing that to life was like amazing. So you're a comic fan. Like what comics did you collect? Like when you were young?
Of course, everything Marvel. I inherited some from, like I said, I had 2 older uncles and they collected everything, in real time. You know what I mean? So like in the 60s when stuff was coming out, they were collecting for real. So of course, everything Marvel. Everything starts with Marvel, obviously.
Yeah.
So of course the classic Spidey, Hulk, the big 5 or whatever. Spidey, Hulk, Thor, you know what I'm saying? Fantastic Four, Cap, all of that. Of course, as I grew older, I started. I love DC too. I love DC too. Of course, those characters are iconic in their own right. Of course, as I got older, I got to get into different companies, Dark Horse, Image, and all of that. So definitely, and I'm big on artwork. So a lot of times, the first thing that catches me is an illustrator or the artwork, whether it be, Jim Lee or whoever. I like the artwork, and it makes me like the story even more. Sometimes vice versa, but definitely, right now I'm reading a lot of. I'm a huge Star Wars head, so I'm reading a lot of Star Wars comics. In conjunction with obviously the classic Marvel characters. Um, but yeah, man. For a minute, even Thundercats had a comic that was out. I
Yeah,
was
Oh
collecting
yeah.
that real heavy. Yeah, I was collecting that real heavy
yeah,
for a minute. Um, so yeah, man, those are sort of like my staples. Yeah.
yeah. I just got to say this. I was with my homeboy Big Jim Slade, who is from West Philly, from the bottom. But
Shout
we were
out.
talk we were talking about comic book artists, and one of my favorites. He hates him, but one of my favorites is Bill Sienkiewicz because
Okay.
he did like an early New Mutants run, and he obviously did the
Right.
EPMD
Right.
album cover,
Yes.
Bobby
Right.
Digital, but he hates his artwork. But I love Bill Sienkiewicz, so Slade,
Yeah,
the
he's
hell with you.
dope. He's dope. He's dope.
Why does he hate him? He's really
Especially
good.
that Bobby Digital cover.
Bobby
That was real.
Digital.
That was nuts. Yeah.
It it's too abstract for him, Doc. It's like I
Uh.
like that abstract look. It was too abstract for him, but he like
Okay.
he's a big Jack Kirby guy, so he likes just the regular structure. So it was
Oh, okay.
Got you.
too it's too abstract for his brain. But
I got you.
yeah,
Got you.
get back to it, Doc. I could talk comic books all day.
No. Hey, it's all good. I want to figure out when the you put the record out, and when do you start to get attention that you end up at Interscope / Aftermath or whatever that situation was? How did that all happen?
Yeah. Well, again, we record the demo in '95, and it just so happened that another classmate of mine, a guy by the name of Damon Johnson, aka Dave Dollars, after he left Lincoln, his next step was to. He said he was moving out to California to work on videos for a company called Geronimo Films. His older brother was working with this company who would be doing the videos for Aftermath Records. He said, "Listen, I can't promise you anything, but I heard your demo. Everybody on campus is talking about it. I can't promise you anything, but I'll take it out there, and I can actually get Dre to sit down and listen to it." So I gave it to him. Actually, this was '96 when I gave it to him, and he took it out there, and that was that. I just put it in the back of my mind. I didn't think anything of it. But I stayed in touch with him loosely. Now, at the same time, I moved to Brooklyn, New York in 1996, like the winter of '96. And there was a showcase going on called the Lyricist Lounge. It was responsible for giving basically like almost like a gong show, for lack of a better term, for hip hop. You know what I mean? And it was like we're talking about the mid grimy '90s, so it was like it could be brutal, it could be rewarding, but it was like boom bap era, the grimy '90s, Lyricist Lounge, and I started doing this showcase. And at the time, I only had like really like one song that was being remotely played on like like Stretch and Bob Bito or something like that, which was like I think Bums and a song that I recorded called Animalistics. So Secret Wars was something that I was only starting to do at shows. The first time I did it in front of a crowd in New York City was at the Lyricist Lounge, and everybody loved it. And there just happened to happen to be I'm not sure if some of the artists that I named initially were in the crowd, but there were tons of artists there. Everybody from Craig G, Master Ace, the Boot Camp, you name it. I mean, it was just tons of people in the audience, and it was like one of those sink or swim sort of deals. But I did pretty well, and I started doing the Lyricist Lounge on a regular basis for a minute for the next year or so, and I get a call out of the blue. So simultaneously, as I'm making a name for myself in underground hip hop in New York City in the Mecca, I get a phone call, and this is like I think like maybe early '97, and Dame Dollars is like, listen, man, Dr. Dre is really loving your demo, and he wants to work with you. Like, what's up? We want to bring you out here, and so yeah, like the end of '97, going into '98, they brought me out there, and I ended up actually signing with Aftermath Records, which is a subsidiary of Interscope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what was it? Was it an album deal? Were you brought on as an artist or as a writer, or was it a combination of all those things?
Yeah, it was an album deal. It was an album deal. You know, I would be lying if I say I didn't first have some reservations, because I mean, obviously we just, you know, we're talking about a year prior, you know, Biggie and Tupac, you know what I'm saying? And all of that. So, you know, at the time it was still a little tense to a certain degree in terms of like traveling like that and going back and forth. And I just remember even my mom, she's no longer here, but when she was here, she was very, very aware of what was going on within hip hop, you know, because of her own activism growing up. So she saw it as the next step of the movement. So she was even like, yo, I don't know about this, you know, Biggie just, you know, what happened to Biggie out there, and it's this East Coast, West Coast. In fact, there's an infamous article, a Vibe magazine article that people credit with being like, this is what started the East Coast. I'm in that magazine. That was like one of my first highlights in a major publication.
Wow.
So I go out there. I meet up with Dr. Dre. He's a very good dude, very humble, very not the gangster that one might expect. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that was exhausted through, you know, his ordeals at Death Row and things of that nature. So here we have Dre at the helm of a fledgling music corporation in Aftermath, and he's looking to do some things differently and sign some different forms of artists. And he literally told me, like, listen, man, I just want you to do you. I want you to, you know, what I hear on this demo, you know, I just want to enhance that. And I'm looking to, you know, to give you a wider audience and, you know, make some classic material. So what I think happened, looking back at hindsight, is Dre signed a whole bunch of artists, just hoping that, you know, something was going to pop, because I think before I got there, he put out that songs like Been There, Done That. Yeah. And while they were good, it was a good record. And I think that Aftermath compilation was like a dope compilation. It didn't do the numbers that people would have expected from a Dr. Dre at that time.
Right.
So I think the pressure was on, you know, because I mean, you know, when you're in the game at that level, you still have to answer to someone. So Interscope is still his boss at that point, and those people, whether it be Jimmy Iovine, Ted, all those dudes, they're still his boss. So, you know, the bottom line is the bottom line. So he knew that whatever he was working on or put out next really had to be like, you know, really dope and really, for lack of, you know, let's just be real, had to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think that he saw the potential in me to do certain things. But when I got there, it was sort of like, I just noticed after being in the studio for a couple of sessions, it diminished. Like his attention was other places. And when I would confer with even some of the other artists, like for a minute, you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with Eve, who went on to have success with the Rough Riders.
Yep.
Well, we were label mates for a minute. In fact, she was like one of the first other artists on the label that I met. In fact, let me correct that. The first artist that I met was King T. And I really regret not really developing more of a connection with him, because I think, yeah, King Tila, at your own risk, all of that. Come on, man. So
I'm sorry, who?
King.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
100%.
Shout out to
100%.
Tila. Yeah, man.
Yeah, shit, 100%, man. So I regret not really linking up with him more because I think my career might have. I think he would have understood me, at
Yeah.
least from a lyrical
Yeah.
standpoint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just imagine like, yo, I should have been trying to link up with the Liquid Crew and all of that. But yeah, we were all label mates for a brief moment, and so I link up with Eve, and I'm trading notes with her, and I'm like, yo, are you in the studio like that? She's like, nah, I gotta, I can't really catch Dre. I don't know what's going on, and to Dre's credit, he's a perfectionist. He may not be the fastest when it comes to putting out material. And because he's such a perfectionist, I think he sits on a lot of material.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what was starting to happen with myself and with Eve. And even, I mean, there was a bunch of other people that were on the label as well. R&B acts, people like Dawn Robinson from In Vogue.
Yeah.
There was like a bunch of R&B people there too. So again, like I said, King T was on the label. So it was just like after a while, I just felt like I was being stagnant out there. You know what I mean? And then again, I'm in LA. I'm not from there, so it's only but so much I can really do in terms of mobility. So after a while, it just was like, the night that I kind of confronted the situation, it was myself. And Eve always tells the story about the first night she and Scott Storch met Dr. Dre. But what I guess people forget is that I was in that room also. I mean, little old me, I was also in that room also when
Philly in
Scott
the house.
Storch, Philly in the house.
Yeah.
Scott Storch was sitting there playing the piano for Dr. Dre, and Dre was like blown away. But yeah, so me and Eve went to him, and he first of all, we popped up at a studio session that we weren't supposed to know anything about, and I think he was recording like songs for like that Chronic album, 2001 album or something like that. So we pop up like Philly's in the building. We're just gonna muscle our way. So we come into the studio session, and first he was like, first of all, how did y'all find out about this? Well, we didn't snitch or anything, but we found out where the studio session was and was like, what's up? Like, why aren't we in the studio? What's going on here? So he was like, you know what? He gave us a test. He threw a beat on, and he had it was like 5 or 6 other MCs in there, and I'm not adding any sugar on this, but me and Eve smoked everybody, whoever was in there. We had it was so much frustration built up that we had to prove that we deserved to be there. Whatever happened, we knew, well, they're not going to be able to say that we can't rap. You know what I mean? So we did what we had to do. He threw the beat on, we recorded our verses, and we smoked everybody. And he sat us down respectfully after that and said, listen, there's a lot going on right now. I got a bunch of artists. Your individual projects may not come out for 2-3 years the way things are looking. If you're fine with that, you'll always have a place here. If you're not fine with that, we won't hold you up. So me knowing how rapidly even the tide of hip hop can be, you know what I'm saying? Even rhyme styles, 2-3 years, it's a new rhyme style, and they'll be looking at you like you're old school. So I was like, yo, I can't sit around out here. So I stayed on the parent company Interscope for like another year and change. Eve went on obviously to have success with the Rough Riders. She stayed on got off Aftermath, but stayed on Interscope respectively. So yeah, after about another year and change of them just not knowing what to do with me as this underground lyrical comic book rapping MC, I ended up being released from Interscope directly about a little before 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you ended up at Raucous?
Yeah, that's when I ended up at Raucous, like maybe like a year or so after that. And that situation was probably for me 10 times more hurtful than being released from a major like Interscope. Wow. Because of what I mean, just think about Raucous's lineup at that time. They were known as like the last bastion of boom bap hip hop as far as a label was concerned.
Yep.
So we're talking Black Star, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Pharaoh Monch, the Coco Brothers, the Beat Miners. I think Cool G Rap might even been on, or might have had a deal with Rawkus at the time. I mean, Company Flow.
Flow.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just didn't get more hip hop than that.
Yeah.
So I got to Rawkus. By the time I got to Rawkus, you know, they were having aspirations of competing with the Def Jams and the larger labels. So their mantra of this is where the real B-boy hip hop is started to be shoved to the side in favor of we need to sell records.
Yeah.
So even if you go back and listen to like the style of music that Rawkus had as at its inception, and just go through a timeline, I'm not saying that it got worse, but you can tell that there was more of a push towards some sort of commercial viability for the later records on Rawkus. You know what I mean? So even though I had the ability to and what really burnt me, the last straw with Rawkus was I had a song with the RZA called He Lives.
Yeah,
and initially,
I love that joint. I love that joint, bro.
My man. salute. I'm glad you heard it. And for me, my records being leaked over the years has been the best thing that happened to me. Some artists, it hurts them. For me, in my situation, it's done nothing but help. So I had a record with the RZA from Wu-Tang that was supposed to be on Sound Bombing, and they didn't want to clear it, or I think and from what I understand, I don't know the exact numbers, but it wasn't like RZA was asking for some astronomical number. He's the RZA. Right. You know what I mean? But they didn't want to give me that, you know, that solid look, and they didn't put that on Sound Bombing. So it was like, wow, that was like kind of like the last straw with you know, and to give you some context on that record. So to backtrack a little bit, one of the producers that I developed a great mentor-mentee situation with is Prince Paul from Stetson Sonic, Grave Diggers, Handsome Boy Modeling School, De La Soul, you name it. We know what time it is with Paul.
Yep.
So he's like my mentor at this point in putting together my project and making records. So he made sure that I had a record with Master Ace and Trugoy. He made sure that I had a record with, you know, a bunch of people that, yes, they had respect for me in terms of seeing me at Lyricist Lounge, and they were willing to do it because they said, okay, this guy can rhyme and he's rhyming about, you know, pretty positive stuff. But also it helped that, you know, I'm rolling with Prince Paul. Right. So Paul calls me one day. He's like, yo, how would you like to do a song with the RZA? I'm like, what? I was at his house before he could even answer the phone. He was like, drop the phone. He's like, nah, I didn't mean today. I mean, like, in the future, how would you like to do a song with RZA? So I'm like, yo, man, that would be like, that's like bucket list stuff, you know? So he calls me one day. It's like, he's like, this week, you just got to be ready. I don't know what day it may be. I don't know what hour. If I call you 3:00 in the morning, be ready. So he called me. He was like, today is the day. I remember the studio being on like 36th Street in Manhattan. Like the building was like, it was like the 36th floor, I want to say. It was like something crazy. Like everything was 36. I'm not kidding. Everything was 36. The room was and when we got to the room, it was like the way you entered, it was like some secret. I don't know to this day how I really got there. Like, no lie, it was like I went to the 36th chamber. Wow. And while I was there, Meth came in. I remember Raekwon being there. I remember Master Killer being there. I think like a couple of the Sons of Man were there from that group. Later on, as I was leaving, Tony Starks came in. So I'm like, yo, I've made it to the 36th chamber. That was like, yo, I was like, yo, I can, if my career ended right now, I'm out of here. Like I'm done. Like it's nothing else to, there's nothing else to do.
Right.
So we recorded, and the precision and professionalism that someone like the RZA, I've been around a lot of people, from the Dr. Dre's to the KRS Ones to the you name it. There's something really, really, I don't want to sound like, I'm not a religious person. I'm not really even overtly spiritual, as they say. I see things as energy. But I had some sort of an experience just being around him. He's such a philosopher, such a relatable person, because he's from the hood, but yet because of his experiences and the way his mind works, I mean, he goes back and forth to Tibet. So I mean, just that, knowing that alone,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, and he's a consummate professional. I told him what I wanted to do on the record, and he was like, yo, son, yo, I'm gonna have it started like, yo, God, yo, give me like 20 minutes, God, and I'll be ready. Boom. I was like, all right, cool. I told him what I wanted, and he exceeded it. Now, a record like He Lives, a lot of my records are, we talked about comic books. When all is said and done, a lot of my records are going to serve as different adventures in the overall story arc of Last Emperor, almost like different editions of or comic books within a much larger book. So in He Lives, you get a somewhat of a glimpse as to the origin story of Last Emperor, where a scientist by the name of the RZA, who's able to reanimate the dead. He's the resurrector, obviously, from Gravediggers. So I knew I had to go through the Crypt Keeper and getting to the Resurrector to resurrect a 6,000-year-old warrior known as the Last Emperor. Thus, He Lives. So he got right into character. He if you listen to the record, he talks about it's almost like the same way that for G.I. Joe fans that Serpentor was.
I was just gonna say it's totally Serpentor.
Yeah. So
Word up.
to me, not putting that record being on Sound Bombing would have done my career a great justice, because it's a Last Emperor origin story. But they didn't see the bigger picture. So yeah, man. That RZA session was like tremendous, but that was like my last straw with Rawkus at that point.
Man.
Wow. They're lost.
As a side note, just out of nowhere on certain occasions, I'll just be like, "Nurse, I told you." And
Nurse, I told
and I did it this morning because I knew we were doing the thing tonight, and it was so that song was in my head. I'm like, "Nurse, I told you." My son's like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Wait, he's like, what are you saying?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a song. Don't worry about it."
Yo, nobody does the whole mad scientist thing better than the RZA, man.
No,
yes,
yep. He has got that shit down, man.
And
shout out to DJ Soulbuck.
Yeah, shout out to Soulbuck. Word up.
Because he played that last night on the mixtape. Yeah.
Wow, that's dope. That's my man. Yeah. That's my man. And the nurse who the young lady who plays the nurse is actually Blue Raspberry, who's on a lot of the Wu-Tang stuff as well. Yeah.
I was wondering who that was. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's totally Blue Raspberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that point, man. Wow.
Yeah, that's a dope song.
So post Rawkus, it kind of makes sense that you're gonna be independent, you know?
Yeah, after that I was like, yeah, me and labels just ain't. Although there was a small indie label named Raptivism that, that picked up the baton and was just like, listen, man, we don't really want much from you. We just want to put your project out. And they did that. So around 2003, 2004, they put the project out. But what bothered me the most about all of this, so we're talking basically from 1997-ish to 2004. And for an MC, the rhymes out. You want the rhymes to be fresh. This is like, you know what I'm saying, like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts. You can't sell old stale donuts.
Yeah.
You gotta, the rhymes have to be, even if I'm using certain verbiage, metaphors, punchlines that are like 5-6 years old, it just doesn't hit the same.
Right.
So I'm thankful that a lot of my records got leaked. I really truly am. And that, it's sort of somewhat showcased my ability to work with a wide range of producer also, because during these times I got songs from I've done songs and had sessions with everybody from Diamond D to again Prince Paul to the Beat Miners to DJ Muggs of Cypress Hill.
I was gonna say I had to pull this
out. Exactly. Bingo.
Yep.
Bingo.
The world of Susie Wong.
The world of Susie Wong, yeah, man. DJ Muggs, and that was another classic session. Definitely a lot of clouds of smoke in the air because Be Real was there. He didn't come into the session, but Be Real was there right before the session, and meeting him, I always wanted to work with Be Real, and I thought that perhaps this would be the start of it, and working with DJ Muggs. This was while I was still on Rawkus. On Interscope. Aftermath, actually, Dre was like, well, until me and you really lock in, what other producers would you like to work with? And Muggs was one of the people at the top of my list. So he was like, oh, that's nothing but a phone call. Right. So I just ended up in the studio with Muggs. He played like a couple of beats, and like the second one, they all were dope. But like the second one, it was like just that whole ambiance and what he does, and what he's been able to do with Cypress and House of Pain and Funk Dubious, and even later on the Hooligans and all of those guys. He does something culturally that I still haven't really put my finger on, but he has a tremendous ear for what will fit with an artist culturally.
Yeah.
So when you listen to a lot of the early Cypress stuff, it's like stuff that you would have kind of heard in the 60s amongst what I would imagine would be the Cholo culture in LA. Yeah. So he was excellent at capturing that. Goes on to work and help with House of Pain. So between him and Everlast, and they put that thing together, and it sounds like what Irish rap is supposed to sound like in your mind. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Then you know what I mean? So when he played me the sample, of course I had no idea what the lady was saying. I've come to find out, recently, that she's like a very big singer in that region of the world. I don't know if it's the Czech Republic or Hungary or somewhere over there, but she's like a really big deal over there. And I don't know if he knew that or not, but it just turned out to be like, when people think of Last Emperor Records, this is like, Susie Wong is like right up there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a nerd question here, a bit of a nerd question.
Sure.
What is the difference between Palace of the Pretender and Music Magic Myth? Like, what is because the track was similar and they kind of came out at the same time.
Yeah, I think that one was like a US release. The other one was like the world release. And for some reason, some of it even escapes me. There are different like 2 or 3 different songs on whichever, on either or. Yeah. And I don't know if it was like a sampling issue or something like that, but certain stuff got released overseas that wasn't released here. Okay. And I think that was like the difference. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I was kind of curious, like why they came out so close together, but they had different titles and slightly different track lists and things.
Exactly. I think it was like some sampling issues or something like that. At the time, I was doing my best. I'm just an artist, tunnel vision, and the guys that handle that, they handle that. So, but from what I surmise, it was like some issues about what could be released overseas.
Gotcha. Okay. You talk about working with the beat miners real quick.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. What do you say?
Yeah, like, again, I was given the opportunity at a certain point to like just, go and seek out whoever I thought was dope. And, I had a budget. They were like, work with them, whoever you want to. So what gave me the way in, so to speak, was being showcased at Lyricist Lounge. And so my name was buzzing. So it was like I had that credibility because I come from an era where you had to have the credibility first in order to even get in the game. No amount of money that you can throw around is going to save you. I mean, it may get you in some doors, but you have to have that solid credibility. So I always wanted to work with the beat miners. Of course, I'm a Black Moon fan. I'm a Smith and Wesson fan, a Helter Skelter, original Gun Clapper fan, all of that. So when I saw Mr. Walt in front of Fat Beats, this had to be like '97. I think I just took note. I said, okay, he comes here and he kind of hangs out sometimes or shops or whatever. And I knew that his brother was Evil D, the DJ for Black Moon. I had met him a couple of years prior. So I was like, yo, I gotta work with this guy. I think he can bring the best out of me. And another theme for me is I'm a firm supporter of being mentored by people who already have experience in the field that I want to become a part of. So obviously, somebody like a Prince Paul. I mean, there's a plethora of knowledge and a wealth of knowledge in somebody like him. So Mr. Walt of the Beat Miners, I looked at the same way. I did my research. I found out he was like a very popular. He worked in a popular record store on Jamaica Avenue back in the day, and a lot of artists would go there, and they had like a good rapport with him. So he's like in my opinion, like somewhat of a Yoda figure. I'm always looking for these Yoda figures, like those grand masters who can kind of like guide me in the ways of hip hop. So I linked up with him, reached out to him. I recorded a bunch of songs at his home studio, the same home studio that he recorded The Shining and you know what I mean, Enter the Stage and all of those sorts of things. And him and Evil D just treated me like the big brothers that I never had. You know what I mean? And we just worked. We just made songs. Some of obviously a lot of them have been leaked over the years and stuff like that. But I learned a lot from Evil D and Mr. Walt. The Beat Miners are very, very talented, great guys and very family oriented. So yeah, it was dope, really dope working with them.
Yeah, that's great. And then the hometown hero, Jazzy Jeff, the Magnificent.
Yes. Yes.
Mystery man.
The mystery man, 100%. So, so many people may not know, but Jazzy Jeff for a lot of years was like facilitating, opening up his Touch of Jazz studios for up and coming artists and just local talent to try to help give them that professional sound and professional exposure. So somehow he just he reached out to me and was like, I want you to come through and let's start working on some stuff. So I recorded probably 3 songs at his studios, and Mystery Man ended up being on that particular project. Yeah. But he was down there working with a lot of dope artists. Really, Jill Scott, before she blew up and came out, she was in there working as a studio artist. On any given day, you might see Common there alongside other local hip hop artists like Baby Black. It was just a really, really dope atmosphere for artists who hadn't quite gotten the level of exposure that they may, or though their peers may feel that they needed. You could come to a Touch of Jazz Studios and really be nurtured in a way that you felt like a real artist was supposed to be treated, and made good music, a lot of good music in and around those studios, man. And so and again, a hometown hero, someone that I started out as a kid standing on the corner, looking at Jazzy Jeff drive up and down Market Street, and eventually I got a chance to work with him. So that was like a very, very, very positive part in my, not just my career as a musician, but my life. Yeah.
That's dope. Our exec producer, Mr. Chuck D, is in the comments. He says salutes to you, Last Emperor, and
Salute.
He wants to know how was the college scene at Lincoln University.
Man, listen. First of all, you already you have the understanding that great people. Once you understand Langston Hughes went there, if you have any aspirations of being a writer, you feel like you're in an environment that can just produce a level of greatness, a level of cultural awareness. And then when I found out that Gil Scott Heron went there, and I found out that the last poets, to at least two of the last poets attended there, it created an atmosphere where, as far as myself as a writer and as someone who prides himself in being socially aware and someone who prides himself with being very aware of the traverse that my people have gone through, man, it's an unbelievable experience. And as far as hip hop is concerned, the first time I met Dave from De La was on that campus.
Wow.
And I went on to work with him. I met Shaheem, the Rugged Child, on that campus. You name it. It was like, it was during that wave of HBCUs really, really being promoted by hip hop artists. We had the hoodies then, and you had shows like A Different World who were highlighting what it was like to go to a HBCU. So with those things historically, coupled with the level of hip hop, we had hip hop artists up there like every week. Either they had a shorty, a girlfriend who went there, or they were coming up there to, do a concert or do some sort of musical exchange. I got to shout out my man Tunji from Amityville, because he's the gentleman who Dave from De La, they were childhood friends. So Dave would come up there and visit Tunji. So I got to be very well aware of how impactful Strong Island, again, salute to Chuck D. I want to give a shout out to Hempstead, Freeport, Roosevelt, Uniondale, all the way out to Ron Kokomo, you name it, Brentwood, all of those places. I got to be aware of the cultural exchange from people being from different places. So you got that melting pot that's Lincoln University. You got kids from DC. You got kids from Philly. You got kids from Maryland, all the way, even Chicago, LA, of course, New York City, New Jersey, Boston. And, it was a very, very, very powerful experience. And I think it's made me the human being that I am today.
That's great. Yeah, that's dope. Ultra, you have any other questions for the Emperor?
Nah, bro. Just thank you for all the music, brother. And like C-Doc said, I'm gonna check out the new John. Philly, we got to say John, the new John.
New John. Check the new John out. That's right.
But thank you for everything you contributed, and keep on doing what you're doing, brother. Appreciate it.
I appreciate this time on this format. I want to thank all of you guys. Obviously, C-Dot, my man Ultra Mag, definitely Jennifer, Jenny, with the hip hop, paraphernalia over there. I aspire to have a collection that great in my home. But truly, this has been a great dialogue, and I appreciate you for having me.
Oh, thanks, Last Time. Hey,
Thank
tell
you.
everybody where they can follow you, please.
Yeah, they can follow me right now at the Last Emperor 13 on Twitter. I don't do a whole lot of social media, but I do a little bit of tweeting, and I think it's called X now, though, right?
Yeah.
It's called X or what have you. Yeah, they can find me there. Again, I encourage people. Again, the story arc of the Last Emperor is one that requires you to get the additions and the songs previous. So I encourage people to get all my recent work since 2018, as well as the older stuff. So that's Jungle Gym Season 1. You want to get Lord of the Fly. And also, I did a somewhat of a horrorcore or a horror themed album in 2020 called The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wolfman. So that came out in 2020. And again, get caught up to speed with our new project Program, which is currently on Bandcamp.
Can everybody get you got all your stuff on Bandcamp?
Well, yeah, most of it's on Bandcamp. I encourage people, listen, man, there's no shame in my game. It's all someone's uploaded everything on YouTube. Go to YouTube, be familiar, and then if you like what you hear, then support me. So again, Jungle Gym Season 1, Lord of the Fly, The Wizard, The Witch, and the Wolfman, and my most recent release is Program.
Word up. Yep. All right. Again, thank you for coming through, bro. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Salute to everybody. Peace.
Yep. Thank you. Last effort, everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, bro. Thank you. And hey, you're always welcome back. If you got new stuff coming, please let us know.
100%. I will definitely keep you guys in the loop. And even merch. We got some cool merch coming up. I'll definitely do my best to send you some merch ASAP.
Okay. Word. Fantastic.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Peace.
All right. Peace. All right. There it is.
That was fun, man.
Yeah, that was dope. That was great, man. Great stories. Wow. It's amazing to me the journey artists go on when they get these positions, they get situations where it's like, oh, it's going to be this, and it's not that. Right. Oh, it's going to be this, and it's not that. But you can tell he's a true artist. Mm-hmm. He's a true hip hop artist because, okay, whatever. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing it.
Creating. Keep creating.
You know, how many times it seems like this story is on a loop.
Yeah.
You know? Every single person, almost every single person we talk to, it's on a loop.
Yeah, you know what? And Chuck said, artists need to learn from these artists who continue their muse regardless. Exactly. That's it.
Chuck got bars.
Yeah, he does, man. I don't know if you meant that to rhyme or not, bro, but yeah. There you go. You know what, though? I honestly, if you can figure out a way to do it, probably his music is better off because there's no corporate restriction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah.
He can create freely and do and not have to answer to 20 questions to junior executives.
Yep.
Yeah. And try to explain what this is.
Exactly.
Yep. That's great. Good stuff. Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, I don't know why you're tuning in now. Just go back and watch the show.
Or you could just come tomorrow because I think we'll just replay it.
Yeah. Or yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. We could do that. I know we can't replay it because we ran out of recording space. We got to clear out the hard drive, Jen. So it said that when I started the show. So.
Oh no! Are you kidding?
I am not. We'll have to pull the audio down from YouTube for the what you call it version, the podcast version. It's all right. It's all good. Independent underground is the best way. I'm saying, it's. I think that's what's gonna, and it has. That's what keeps real hip hop alive. You know. Yep.
That's how it started.
That's how it's gonna survive. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna talk about our sponsors real quick. Ultramag.
We are sponsored, even though I have a beer and I don't have the can.
That's okay.
But we are sponsored every week by Hackensack Brewing, who makes a beer for the Awesome 2 called Auga. And I talked to Teddy Ted last week, And next month they're going to start back with the Vibes in the Garden. So they'll be having DJs and food trucks and obviously the beer of Hackensack Brewery starting. I'll get the date. We'll do it next show, but it starts next. I think it's May 19th or May something, but
Word.
it's coming soon. Vibes in the Garden. Your favorite hip hop artists just show up. There's been Kid Capri. There's been Large Professor. Nice and Smooth. You never know who's going to show up. So
Dope.
Hackensack Brewing, Vibes in the Garden, awesome too. Check them out.
Yes, indeed. That's something I definitely got to make a trip for one of these days.
Got to do it. Got to do it.
Indeed. And we're also brought to you by the Spit Slam Record Label Group. The Spit Slam Record Label Group, a Chuck D situation. Catch us on your favorite streaming platform, on Bandcamp, or visit our official web store at spitslamrecords.com. All releases are available digitally or on CD, with select titles available on vinyl and cassette. The Spit Slam Record Label Group. Throwback to the future sound. Yes, indeed. Also, real quick, Antoine said, I just played today Music in Our Message. I love that album. So underrated. I got 2 copies on CD Classic 1994. Yo, man, I have this I love that record to death. And I have this crazy obsession with it. I have like 6 copies of it.
I got 2 copies on cassette.
Nice. Do you have the clean version?
No, I think I don't believe so.
I need to get the clean version on cassette. I have the yeah.
You got kids in the car.
Yeah, well, no, just to complete my collection, my collection of music.
I'll look and
stuff.
I'll look and see if one of them is. If it is, you can have it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
it has the. It doesn't have the regular cover. It has the group on the cover.
Let me. I wish I don't have my stuff. We'll talk. We'll talk.
What was I gonna say? Oh, well, speaking of Mr. Chuck D, you can join him, Flatline, and myself every Friday night for the Angie Don't Stop radio show on Rap Station. You can check it out on Mixcloud and the Rap Station app. And I play the Spit Slam Jam of the Week. A lot of great music, 2 hours of fantastic music. So check that out. Stuff that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Also check out Ultrabag, Jennifer O'Jenny, and the aforementioned DJ Soulbuck. Shout out to Soulbuck. Every Sunday night right here on Channel Zero for the mixtape, where they play music, where Soulbuck plays music from our upcoming guests. And who do we have next week, Jennifer?
Given the look on my face, Dip Diver.
Dip Diver. Okay. All right.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, see, Dak, I gotta send you all their music. I gotta send you their CDs.
I know. Well, I think it's on Bandcamp because I think you told me me to it before, right?
Yeah, but I gotta send. You need physical copies.
Oh,
you're a collector.
I am.
I have all their stuff, so I gotta send them. You and Flatline.
Okay, word up. Yeah, sure. I'll check it
Jennifer's just going to burn them, so I won't send them to her.
I was gonna say I'm gonna burn them
in effigy. You're not.
Why would I do that?
Anyway. I'll send. Would you like me to send you a copy also, Jennifer?
No. By all means, just disinclude me in all of it. I'm good.
Oh,
Mike the Hat isn't sending me shit, so whatever.
I'm sure Mike would love to send you stuff. We will We'll send Mike your adrass, and I'm sure you'll get a little something.
Actually,
no, I'm good.
No, he's working on that
was really funny.
I can't even say that. He's working on a album, and I think Dan
Lish.
Say
it. Shut up.
You know what? I will shut up. I'll save it for afterwards.
God bless America. I shouldn't say this, but here you go.
Well, anyway, join us next Tuesday. We'll be back at our regularly scheduled time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday night next week, when we get to talk to Dip Diver. And I want to thank everybody watching live tonight on our special Monday night episode. Thanks for accommodating me, guys, because I'll be traveling tomorrow. And thanks, of course, to Ultramag 7, Jennifer, Jenny. Again, shout out to Flatline. Hope he feels better. And Mr. Chuck D in the house. And we will see everybody next week for another episode of It's CDOC again.
Whoop.